Hello and welcome to the Blood and Pigment channel. I'm Joseph and I'm here with Jason.
Hello.
And we just got back from Adepticon, one of the biggest wargaming conventions in the United States, and we did a bunch of Blood and Plunder there, and we wanted to kind of share our experience there. And if you're thinking about coming next year, you should, but hopefully this video will help lure you into having some great pirate games at Adepticon 2026. Jason, you did a lot of the organizing this year. You did a ton of work transporting and organizing a bunch of disorganized artistic gamers. Thank you for all your efforts there. You want to kind of outline the big picture, and then we'll walk through some of the specific events and stuff we did?
So big picture, we ended up with somewhere around 14 or 15 volunteers trying to run a little bit of everything that Firelock Games produces. As the flagship, it's Blood and Plunder, so we ran a wide variety of events for that. We had Oak and Iron, Port Royal, Blood and Valor, Blood and Crowns, pretty much everything except Blood and Steel there. So it's good to have a solid presentation both in demos and in terms of narratives and tournaments for just about every game.
This is our third year as Blood and Pigment. They're kind of organizing events, and without your efforts, it wouldn't really be this big, but we've grown quite a bit every year and offering. I think we're probably, last year I know we were, but I would guess we were again this year the biggest historical game as far as number of people through our events at Adepticon.
Yeah, I definitely think we were the largest. If we had 100% attendance, we were somewhere around 460 something slots. We had a little bit lower than that, probably 420, 450, somewhere in that range, which is phenomenal for historical games. We had demos running on every single day in the morning, 8:30 to 12:30, every hour on the hour for just about every game Firelock produced again. So 4 tables of 4 people for Blood and Plunder, so 16 players every hour. Oak and Iron, we had 2 tables, I think. Port Royal, we had 4 tables with 2 people on each. Blood and Crowns was a 4-player demo. Blood and Valor was a 4-player demo. And Rufus showed up and was running Blood and Bayonets demos, even though the game's not yet released. So I didn't really keep up on that, but it seemed like he was busy pretty much the entire time.
A lot of demos, yeah. 16 players every hour, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. That added up fast.
Yeah.
So this is a great place to come and learn how to play if cracking a 200-page rule book is a little intimidating, although it should not be. Read the whole thing. That's the way to do it. That's my mantra. But our demo seemed like it was really working really well. It gets through several turns. You got a little small land force of 3 units or a sea force with a ship. We had a bunch of people volunteer to run those. That was pretty labor intensive as far as just personnel, but people really stepped up, and we had a lot of helpful volunteers help out with the Firelock Games, and I was impressed how many people jumped in and helped and how many people ran through those demos. Hopefully people had a good time.
Thanks to Dan Carlson for painting a boatload, literally a few boatloads full of miniatures. So we had all of our demo forces pre-made ahead of time, and we were much better prepared this year, and we'll be even more prepared for next year. So we also had a large number of people volunteer, bring just a variety of things. Riley Falk helped paint some of the minis, and Don helped paint several of the minis for the historical games. Power Stone brought a lot of the Valor and Brown's materials. John Lundberg as well, and Josh Shivak brought a lot of the Oak and Iron materials, and we had a few people bring Terrain, Josh, and Garrett Swader as well. So it's a group effort. It's the best way to make it work. So,
yeah, I think we brought over 1,000 miniatures for people to use. Just us Blood and Pigment guy. It's 200 for 400 for the historical scenarios, then all those minis for all the demos, plus the other non-plunder events. So yeah, huge group effort. Thank you everybody for helping out. Speaking of historicals, we ran 2 big scenarios throughout the week. Riley helped me out a ton and took over the whole Deerfield Raid scenario, part of Queen Anne's War, kind of a New England style, French and Indian versus British kind of a surprise attack scenario. We ran that 5 times during the week, 4-hour scenario, pretty big. Might scale it back to a little shorter, a little smaller next year. Different scenarios, but we always want to offer some historical, kind of larger scale multiplayer games, 6-player games. We had almost all those full, although I think our placement wasn't the best this convention. New facility, and we were on the very top story, 4th floor, at the very end of the last hall after everything else. So some people didn't find us or didn't bother to show up. So we had some no-shows, but we had 4 to 6 players in each one of these scenarios. Santiago de Cuba was kind of a classic Buccaneer raid, kind of the beating heart of Blood and Plunder is that age of Buccaneering, late 17th century. The English raiding Spanish town, one of the iconic pieces of that age. So we did a big raid on a Spanish town there. And Don Ollerton and his son Ian were there, and we played that a bunch. And Don painted all the minis for that. We packed a whole Spanish town in 3-4 suitcases and packed it across the country. That was a big project I work on. I played that one 5 times, and Don helped was playing along with that almost every time too. And people seem to really enjoy that, although I learned a good bit about, I think, convention game design. So I hopefully fine-tune historical scenarios again next year, but we'll keep that kind of thing up. But yeah, we had a good 30 people through that scenario, and we had a bit of an even split between English and Spanish wins, and British and native French wins in the other scenario. So people seem to have a good time on those. And then we had tournaments.
So we had a Blood and Valor tournament run by Rufus, and we also had a Oak and Iron tournament that was run by Josh Shivak. Congrats to Eric Goebel for the win there. And then we had on Friday the Blood and Plunder land tournament, 200-point force of any faction, any time period. We had an interesting outcome at the end. We ended up with a tie and no way to really come up with a good tie break based on what we were recording. So we had 2 decks of cards, and the highest activation in terms of the game was the determined winner between Eric Goebel was playing, I think, Church's Raiders, and Tyler played the Mosquito Zombo. They both drew, and the tiebreak went to Eric. So that was a interesting outcome. It was a little exciting.
We've had some close games before that come down to a dead heat tie, but we've never had all the different tiebreakers match up for a whole tournament. So we use the Firelock tournament packet for the basic rules, but we're going to add some more tiebreakers to make sure that complication doesn't happen. But yeah, it was funny because Tyler called it. He said, I'm going to draw the 2 of clubs, and lo and behold, he did draw the lowest card in the deck. It was epic. He wins.
Yeah, and
right there.
Congrats to Jaden King, got 3rd with, I believe, a British Raiders force. Friday, we kicked off the C tournament that afternoon. We upped the point value for that from 200 to 250 this year, and I think that was an excellent change. We had a much wider range of tactics. People still in 2-deck ships all the way up to the Mighty Galleon. Some folks running 2 ships. One individual ran 3 ships, 3 different Barco Luengos. We had a variety of things from boarding to musket lists to cannon lists to any combination in between it. And so it was definitely, I think, a welcome change overall. It puts the 2-deck ships at a little bit of a disadvantage, but thankfully the 2-player starter set comes with 2. So if you want to run it, you can still be competitive in that. And I think based on the general feedback we got, we'll probably keep it at 250 for next year.
Yeah, it seemed to be a good decision. I really enjoyed watching the land tournament. Looked like some really, really tight games. Some people, first tournament, and they were learning some things, but a lot of those top tables had really, really good competition, and I was impressed with the forces and the play I saw. I was playing in the C-Lit tournament, so I didn't get to see as much. But I enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed seeing the more diverse meta and the different possible builds that were all doing well, and meeting some people I've met online and getting to play against them and having some tight games and getting beat by Garrett.
Yeah, that was kind of unfortunate. We had Joseph and Garrett, two of the Blood and Pigment members, got seated at the same table, and so one of them is automatically out of the running for the for the overall, but seeded it based on the order of registration, and so try to keep
But
it as
Blood and
fair as
Pigment took
possible.
the top spot anyway because Dan got the win on this tournament.
That's true. Dan Carlson played Brethren of the Coast with an old-fashioned 17th century list, just maximized for boarding and some musket support, if I remember right. Tyler also ran a Last Buccaneer. Oh no, wait. Tyler ran Last Buccaneers and came in second. So he technically came in second in land and sea, which is a good showing. And Christian Bush, who ran the 3 Barco list, came in third. And we also had a bonus award for the best painted, which went to Jake Ferris. And there were a lot of good-looking ships there this time. Some folks went out of their way to build additional display boards, which were definitely eye-catching. There'll be some photos of that, hopefully in this video. If not, there'll be some on our blog post with that. It just added a little bit of flair to the game. So between rounds, they would set their ships up on the little display board wherever they were to just kind of set the mood for things. It just kind of takes things to the next level. So we may have to come up with a contest for that in the future.
Yeah, there was enough of it. And we had that galleon with the music inside it, trying to intimidate people. There was some fun stuff.
Patrick has hollowed out his galleon and put a sound system in it, and there were a few Sea of Thieves style conversions and people just having fun with their ships, so that's always good.
Super fancy painted voodoo ship, all purple and green and stuff, with skeleton crew. That was pretty cool too. Some real creativity and real high skill up there. Yeah, Jake's flute was the new meta, really. There was like 4 flutes there. It's kind of crazy. I don't know why. I chose to do it because it's a bad ship and I didn't want to take the meta, and I ended up taking the meta anyway. It's not that bad. But it was 24 players in both tournaments, which is a good solid size for a Blood and Plunder tournament.
I say we try for 30 at least next time.
Me too. I'd love to see it get up to 30, 32, 36.
Or 60, and we just panic and scramble for mats.
I hope people register a little earlier. That a land tournament went from 16 to 24 in one day there at the end. Yep. But that's good. Speaking of display boards, we had some display boards to kind of catch people's eye that you and Fernando worked really hard on, and really proud of those. And thank you for all the effort you put into those. 16-inch by 16 by 16 display board for each nationality in Blood and Plunder. Do you want to speak to those for a quick minute?
Sure. We just tried to come up with a new layout or something to feature each of the nations. So Dutch, we had a Barco Luengo sailing. And yes, the wake is too big, but it's cool. We had several boards that were featured with some water effects in them, just some clear resin. Each of them tried to just tie the setting a little bit to where they were in the time period to just give a little bit more dynamic view of all of the forces in the game and highlight each of the models. Fernando did a phenomenal job painting everything. I'm not sure how many models went into that. That was probably 120-ish models for that as well.
Yeah, it was 130. Yeah.
130. But no, those will probably be back again next year. I think they fulfilled their purpose. They definitely got people to stop by and take a peek at them. And that's the ultimate goal of that: get people to share photos and stop by, ask questions, and try a demo and keep playing.
Hopefully their temporary dividing walls won't be broken next year and we can actually set up near them. We had to set up all wonky because of malfunctioning pieces of the convention center, but oh well. Next year, right? It'll be perfect.
It'll be flawless. So every morning we also ran demos for Port Royal. Eric and I were taking groups of 4 at a time for a couple of hours in the morning, and then on Saturday, Eric hosted a miniature 3-round campaign for Port Royal, where everybody had to bring their own list and just ran through 3 rounds trying to accumulate the most infamy and pieces of 8 that they could. It was a fun. I got roped in to play a ringer just to make it even, but it was a good time all the way around. Had some great looking terrain and a lot of smiles and laughs and hilarity along the way. Folks still kind of figuring out the rules and some things not quite going according to plan. I lost my second best character, fell off a cliff trying to climb up and grab some treasure on round 1 of the second or third round, which was a painful loss, but it worked out.
So Port Royal is Firelock Games' new, smaller scale pirate game that, I don't know, is it Mordheim that they kind of compare it to? Is that right? I don't even know that game, but running individual models rather than units. And this is its really first convention, wasn't it? They were demoing it last year at Adepticon, but it kind of just got delivered over the last couple of months. And a lot of people are coming up saying, I kickstarted it, teach me to play. That's what I was hearing.
Yeah, I think over 50% of our demos were people that had already purchased the game and just hadn't figured out how to play yet. So that was good to get them up and running, and hopefully next year it'll be even bigger and more participation.
Yeah, we'll wrap it into this year's Summer of Plunder too, so that should be fun.
Yeah.
Well, that's a pretty good overview of everything we did there. If you're interested in Blood and Plunder or Port Royal or Okanai or any of other Firelock's games, we're going to be running a lot of them again next year at Adepticon. There is increasing activity at other conventions around the country. Historicon, I know they're going to have something Nova Open this year. Check your local convention, because like as not, there will be some Firelock representation and maybe some events as well that you can get involved in. You can even help out. We had a lot of volunteers this year. Do you want to run through the whole list? If you can do it in one breath, it was a lot.
So Dan Carlson, Joseph Forster, Garrett Swader, Fernando Ortega, Curtis Fraley, Mark Lopez, Tyler Stone, Don Allerton, Ian Allerton, Riley Falk, Eric Goebel, Jake Ferris, Josh Stevac, Dave Jessup, Jaden King, John Lundberg, S. And if I missed a name, I apologize. I appreciate you guys helping out. It was great to have everybody there. And again, this convention and any convention can't be as good as it is without a volunteer staff that's willing to sacrifice a little bit of time and sleep and effort to make sure everybody has fun. And so I hope you guys will be back next year and had a good experience. And anybody that is on the fence and willing to help out, we would love to have you next year. Or at any convention. Oh,
Mike helped a ton too.
Yep.
It was great to have him kind of wandering through the area a bit more this year. He was a little more freed up from the booth because he had more help and a different organizational structure there. So it was great to see him talking with folks and watching games. And then at the end of the convention, he was up till 2 a.m. packing up stuff with us. So thank you, Mike and Firelock, for letting us organize the events at this convention and for helping out with the dirty work. That was our 2025 Adepticon. Hit us up at the next one, and you'll sure to get some good games. Thanks for watching this video.
And always remember to keep your dice at the ready and the wind at your back. Yar har.